Before the next question, I just want to inform the candidates the order that they are going to answer the question in. And it is a rotating order, so everybody gets a chance to be the first or be the last. So the next question is going to be answered first by Ian, then Paul, then Josh, and Faiza and Shama at the last. So the next question is very local and specific to our area. It is about the Broadmead Bridge. There is much concern locally about the impact of Broadmead Bridge closure. What will you uniquely bring to resolve this situation? You've got 90 seconds and the amber card comes at 75 seconds. So the first one, as I mentioned, will be Ian, then Paul, Josh, Faiza, and Shama. Thank you.
I've been working very hard on the Broadmead Bridge problem. Right back in July last year, when the council was warned by TfL that there were problems on the bridge, not definitive, but problems from the bridge, they took the decision to shut it. We only discovered then that back in 2014, the council had also been warned that there were problems with the bridge, and it turns out that they did nothing, or at least very little, and laid no money aside at all over that period in case there were problems further down the road. I have argued with the council that they should have put a structural engineering survey in on day one. They didn't do that. We would have known if they had done that whether we could have kept one lane open on the bridge for light traffic. But because they hadn't done it immediately, that wasn't allowed. And the second thing was, by delaying it 7 months before we got it done, they have made it more difficult for the community. Very few people know what's going to happen to that bridge, and it's creating chaos all sides of the bridge. So I have already been fighting with the council. I am ready, as the MP, to go and help them find the money, whether it's TfL, who've talked to me the other evening about possibly helping, or whether it's to do with the government, or even the council itself. But the key thing here is the role that a Member of Parliament can play here is to make sure and push the council to do the right thing, to do this thing immediately, to have done that survey straight away, to have worked it, publicly told everybody here what was going on, and the key thing is to do what the people need, not what suits you as a council best.
Yes, this bridge is very been TfL saying that it's the council's responsibility, council saying it's the TfL's responsibility. If I was in power, if I was elected, I would push, actually, for the government to get it sorted and then charge the TfL and the council 50-50. If they do refuse to pay it, then I'd stop it from the benefits they get from the government. Because it is something that needs to be done, and it needs to be done sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Yes, Broadmead Road Bridge. This was obviously a very avoidable problem. The council has not done enough to avoid. If elected, my first action would be to reach out to TfL and make use of their world-class capability for surveying and engineering to get proper costs allocated for the project. And then, as Ian says, work hard to gather the funding. In the longer term, though, the real problem here is that issues of fundamentally essential infrastructure should not be delegated to councils. Properly, this is an issue that should be sitting with the Department for Transport, and that's something that I would be lobbying to do long term. Whipps Cross, on the other hand, is a much more bipartisan failure. Over the course of the last 30 years, MPs and councils of all parties have completely failed to grasp the nettle on this. The specific pledges that I would make if elected as MP are as follows. There would be no reduction of beds at Whipps Cross. There would be no reduction in services. The palliative care facility at St Margaret's would be integrated into the plans, as with the Connaught Day Centre. There would be an extensive public consultation on all of the plans. There would be no reduction in space None of this nonsense about pushing everything along to new technology in order to make things work. The amount of space needed is the amount of space needed, and the Lib Dems would fight to protect that for you. Fundamentally, the Whipps Cross story is one of a community that has been let down by its representation. As your MP, it will be my first priority to make sure that we get a world-class facility that we need.
I think you answered two questions in one.
Did I?
Whipps was going to be the next, so you've already said your piece. So I'm going to pass it to Sean.
Thank you so much. Yes, this bridge is very frustrating. I've been trying to go around it to get to the midwives at Orchard Centre, and it splits our community, and that's, you know, it makes the school run harder, but it also is just the way it divides Woodford in general, and that there's no date, 1 year of closure, and what we've been stuck in is a political blame game. And I think this is where you have to, you know, rise above that and be honest about where there's money and where there isn't. Now, the council may have made mistakes. They say that they didn't get that letter, they have their own story, but the council also has had huge amounts of cuts. They have had a third of their budget cut. So they're not just going to find the money behind the sofa, right? So, and this is where, you know, what I'm going to focus on, and I've been thinking about this a lot because that and Whipps Cross are going to be key priorities if I get in. One is that, of course, community mobilisation causing a stink. It does result in change. But also, you know, the argument has to be that this is infrastructure investment. The government, and we will get a majority Labour government, they will need to give this some money, and it's infrastructure investment. Now, back when I was a Labour candidate, I pushed to say, shouldn't we already be saying we're going to commit to this? I was told, oh, we can't say anything because there's no money. That is fundamentally incorrect. I'm an economist, I can tell you that. Because imagine, if things are falling apart, businesses are not going to invest. If the bridge is not working, it affects growth. So there's a fundamental mistake here in the thinking. We need to invest in public services, invest in public infrastructure. We need to make that investment, even if we pay it off over time, in order to boost growth. Thanks.
Thank you. Broadmead Bridge. Every time I speak to anybody in Woodford, which is most days now, it is the source of contention. Schools are struggling, or students can't get to school on time, or businesses, the sheer traffic is causing a huge amount of inconvenience. And so my approach to how we solve this crisis is actually, I already have a relationship with the Mayor of London. I also have a very good relationship with the Shadow Transport Secretary, and all being well, will hopefully be the Transport Secretary next week. It is literally about getting people around the room. The issues with local councils, and it's about, we can't be having a blame game, and I don't approach politics or solving crises by blaming one person or another. That doesn't help anybody. It won't solve anything getting faster. My approach would be actually speaking to everybody here in the room. And the fact that local government cannot afford this, the fact that Redbridge Council is struggling to fund this is emblematic of Tory austerity on local government. 60% on average, every council is struggling to pay, and they're having to make choices about adult social care, children's services, or resilience about infrastructure. And Faisal is right, infrastructure needs to be, and Josh is right, infrastructure has to be a national priority. Broadmead Bridge is one of many across the country of that age that are failing. And there needs to be a national strategy around that. So I would actually work with the Cabinet, with the Mayor of London, TfL and the councils to actually sit down together and work out how we actually solve it. Get a plan for residents so they can have some certainty about what's coming forward. We cannot do this alone. This is not a way that we work together well.